ToonGrin.com.
Stop! Thief! Cheerio. Where did he go?
Hold it right there.
Oh, but I'm not the thief.
Brown pig, laundry duty.
It's only one red sock. What's the worst that can happen? Afternoon, chaps.
Hello and welcome to Watchin' Stuff, the show about watching stuff. I'm NERO, with me is my Canadian counterpart WHYBOY, and today we're looking at a sequel. And as we all know, 9 times out of 10, or sometimes just 10 times out of 10, the sequel to a movie usually means for it to do basically everything all over again just to make that quick buck.
Yep, exactly. It's just that sort of paradigm that makes it much more easier to come out with a sequel like that. And this is going to be of a movie that we're actually going to review for Cartoon Corner starting tomorrow. But so we're starting off with a sequel because that makes sense. This is Paddington Bear 2, a movie just about a little brown bear with a nice little blue duffel coat and a red hat just going around London having all sorts of misadventures.
Yeah, the basic premise is, it basically is that there's a bear, he can talk, and misadventures. It's a very simple concept, and it's interesting because when you stop and think about all the films we've had, especially based on the adaptations of younger source material, stuff like Alvin and the Chipmunks, Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones, yada yada yada. When they do this kind of stuff, it always is like this shallow, lowbrow. It's very ignorant. They go for the saddest form of humor. Like, I haven't actually seen the movie, but I saw the trailer for the Woody Woodpecker one.
Well, I still have to see that one.
And, just watching the trailer of that...
yeah, it feels like a resurgence of that sort of like, oh, look, we're the hip, cool sort of adaptations now, which is why we got the Peter Rabbits and now the Woody Woodpeckers.
Yeah, it's as if, like, studios... It's like they see the source material and say, how do we validate it? Which is the weirdest thing to me, because it's like, who are you trying to validate it to? Like, in the grand scheme of things. Like, the beauty about something like Paddington, and this goes for both Paddington 1 and Paddington 2, is that the idea is... It's about a little bear that goes to London, and he meets a family, and, it plays off to being just a feel-good kind of concept. It's a good-natured little bear that gets into misadventures.
Yes, and that's exactly what the original series, book, and all sorts of other content was about. It was just about that, and they transitioned that perfectly into the movie. So if you like Paddington Bear in the book form, you should like most of the stuff that you'll see in the movies. And so it's just as simple as that. It's just
Yeah.
Because you write it for those people who like the books and such. You don't write it to be like hip with the kids and all that, putting in the fart jokes, the drug jokes, and all that sort of stuff. You write it for the audience.
I think part of the reasoning behind that is they're trying to get widespread audience appeal, but I don't think they realize, why would you be adapting this property of any kind? It's not just Paddington. Like, why would you adapt Scooby-Doo or Alvin and the Chipmunks or the Smurfs or so on and so forth? Why would you be adapting that unless it had a widespread audience appeal to begin with? Why would you spend the money on something that wouldn't have a big enough audience appeal to get a return on your investment?
Yeah.
That's the part that always kind of confuses me, where you've seen Alvin and the Chipmunks, I assume, at least. Yeah. One of them. They have Alvin eating shit, they have Theodore, farting, and I think in the second one they had Alvin and Simon bite a kid on the nuts.
Yeah, something like that. There is just that sort of issue where they just try to up the ante of these sort of children's shows to basically make them more, like you said, widespread appeal sort of thing, even though they don't really understand what that is. They have their core fan base, and basically that's where the core of their show or content was that they had to go towards. This brings me to sort of another sort of example, which was the Cat in the Hat. Now, I know you find it like the most hilarious movie in the worst sort of sense, but it just sort of like epitomizes.
It's just so bad.
It just epitomizes that idea, just like not understanding what made the Cat in the Hat good. Because really, writing-wise, it's trying to run itself to basically be entertaining for the older generation, while just sort of like skipping out on the younger generation, which I always found so baffling.
Well, isn't like the whole moral to the Cat in the Hat, when you get down to it, is like sort of a be careful what you wish for story? Because you had two kids, didn't really follow the rules, they just wanted to have fun. So like the ultimate party guest shows up to have fun, and it ruins everything. And then you realize how horrifying it is if you have people who don't follow the rules. And it's like, oh man, this is pretty bad.
It's sort of around that. It's more sort of a story of just sort of like almost partying in sort of like a concise sort of fashion. There's nothing wrong with just like bending the rules and such, but there is something wrong with just going overboard to the point where you're basically, like in the thematic sort of sense, destroying your entire life in a sense. Like you're focusing all on that. If you're able to like clean everything up and such, like then everything's fine. But if you just go overboard, you end up with Cat in the Hat live action.
Yeah, so in a lot of ways, it's funny with the advent of stuff like, all these child properties, again, the Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Scooby-Doos, and all that. I find Paddington 2 is almost like the anti-kid film adaptation. Like, if you guys remember, like, the Lorax. Good God, it's like the Cat in the Hat all over again, but just in full-blown CGI. I think that's the thing is, like, the Lorax, they try to be cool and hip and put music for a soundtrack so they could just make the money back on that, because they probably know that the movie won't make a full-on investment return. There's a lot of commercializing behind, especially the freaking Lorax, which was like, they did like a tie-in with Cars.
Yeah, and all that sort of stuff.
The character who's like anti-pollution and like anti-deforestation.
Vroom.
The hell?
Yeah.
Paddington is like the antithesis of that. Both of them. It's, two... The idea with 2 is, we're continuing for where we left off on the first film. The first film is basically a tiny bear, after a earthquake in deepest, darkest Peru, is sent to London to find the explorer that had given the iconic hat he wears to his aunt and uncle. And
and basically just so that the explorer can give him a new home. And then he just so happens to find his new family, the Browns. And then it's just all about the movie about him forming the family with them. Now, the second movie is just where there's just sort of like the testing of that bond together and such, and just other connections as well. Because we start off Paddington 2 with him, like, seeing all his bonds with basically all of his neighbors around the town, which I thought was, like one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Like, Paddington Bear is just, like, going through the town, just going like, hey, everybody, what's going on? Here's a sandwich for lunch. Random biker by, like, the garbage man, he hops on that, basically helping him with his driving test and all that. And it's just, like, it really shows what Paddington Bear's character is. Just the ultimate sort of, like, nice guy. Polite to a fault.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing I like, too, is that, like... This, to me, goes to the idea of... Because I've been seeing, like, a lot of people being so critical of movies, and a lot of the critics I see, especially online, one of the biggest things people always say is, like, oh, the story isn't new. And I feel like Paddington 2, at least to me, and maybe you'll agree with me on this, Paddington 2 is proof that it's not the story you tell, but how you tell it.
Yeah.
Because Paddington 2 isn't a new concept. The whole idea is like, I have my life and everything's good. Oh, something happens that results in me going to jail and comedy ensues.
Yeah, exactly. Like, in a lot of ways, it's sort of like a step-by-step retread of the first one, in a sense. Even though there, it's just like, oh no, I'm in this new place after this thing happened. But here, it's like, oh no, this thing happened, and now I'm in prison. Basically put into a new situation where he's basically a fish out of water in each setting. So it's basically just goes beat by beat like that. But even though they are similar like that, they sort of follow different themes, which makes them have different tastes to them. I do say there is some sort of like weird writing to it, where it's just basically like very projected writing. we had the boy character in the second one, basically saying, like, I don't like steam trains. And then in the third act, like, there's a steam train.
Yeah, it's like, where he, like, looks and he says, like, steam trains are cool. And it's like, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a sort of a humor factor to that, but I just feel that might become a little bit annoying to people, because even in the first and second one, there was very projected writing like that. But at the same time, they have such character to that sort of writing that basically I can shrug my shoulders at it, just like, yeah, that's very nice writing.
Well, yeah, like, a lot of it, like, this is a lot like the first film. You know, it's got the contrived plot where coincidence meets coincidence meets coincidence. It's got, you know, silly over-the-top villain that is kind of evil, but also just kind of very funny as a whole. It's got the slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
But I feel like all the actors, and this is such a dramatic difference from, like, the other kid films we have. Like, I dare people to go back and, like, watch the Alvin and the Chipmunk films and look how Jason Lee, he doesn't give a frick about what he's doing.
Yeah, he feels like he's just gliding by in that movie.
like everything about him being there is, you could just tell it's like, this isn't a good written movie. I know it's not a good written movie. I didn't really expect it to do that well, but because the budget's so low, they'll probably make enough of their money back, and I'm picking up a paycheck. I believe, actually, one of the actors, the guy who played the villain for, like, the first...
Yeah, he was saying, like, all these movies are crap, and how he wanted to sabotage the movie during one of the shoots.
Well, he said, like, in an interview, because someone had asked him, they had said, why do you do these movies if you know they're bad? And he goes, because doing these movies help me easily pay for things. Or something to that effect, like, you know, it easily allows me to, like, buy a yacht or something, because they pay us good money to do these lame duck films. And, like, yeah, that's probably true. And the thing is, the difference is between Paddington and, like, Alvin and the Chipmunks is, like, night and day. Because all the actors in Paddington feel like they want to be there. Like, everybody's bringing 110% of their game. They're not gliding by it. And the comedic timing on a lot of these actors is very good.
Yeah, like the key example that I would point in my head is, like, these two very, like, minor characters. Like, I don't even remember much of their names. Like, it's the newspaper lady and just, like, and the colonel guy that lives in his own place.
Well, he was called the Colonel. That's one of the things they called him.
The colonel guy. And they basically, their whole subplot is they get together because Paddington Bear basically cleans Colonel's windows, and his simple act of kindness gets them together. And just, like, it's not a huge thing, but that sort of like, flowing worldness sort of thing, just seeing them come together, makes it just sort of like a living, breathing world to it. And just see, even though they have such small rules, they basically play it up so much, like how they're just playing that sort of game where they're just going like, oh, look at me, I'm sitting right here, like, boop, ooh, and all that. It's just that sort of a comedy aspect that basically brings some life to this movie.
Well, that's the thing, is, like, part of the reason why this works, as opposed to, like, the Alvin and the Chipmunk movies, is, like, the Alvin and the Chipmunk movies is cookie cutter, and because you're not getting a connection to the characters, you can put anybody in place of the three chipmunks.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing about it where it's like, in Paddington, he is such a key staple of that neighborhood that he connects to everybody. Like, you know, you mentioned the cyclist. Remember, like, later in the film, because Paddington's in jail, she's really cranky.
It's like, I didn't get my breakfast today.
Yeah, she says, I'm usually cranky when I don't get, like, you know, my sandwich in the morning. And because, like, Paddington would always do that for her. He'd always bring her a marmalade sandwich, and that would brighten up her day. That changed who she is. You see the professor, he leaves his house, and Paddington would always remind him, did you remember your house keys? And because Paddington wasn't there to remind him, he gets locked outside.
Right.
And it's little things, and I feel like the cynics are going to hate this movie. And I feel like the cynics are going to hate this movie because I witnessed this in action on the same day I came back from the theater after seeing Paddington 2. Later that evening, my parents were watching Paddington, the first one, on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in, I saw that they were watching it, and I went, oh, Paddington, this movie's really good. I just came back from the sequel. And my mom gave me this look of such disappointment and disgust, as if though like, wow, once again I've let my mother down and proved how much of a colossal fucking disappointment I am in her eyes.
Oh my.
Like that's what it was like, because like they're so cynical. Like the primary stuff they watch seems to have either murder, rape, or pedophilia.
Yeah, because that's just a more dramatic end of things. Like, really, the feel-good movie isn't really around anymore, unless you count, like, the sort of romantic comedies and such, which are always based around just sort of like, the misunderstanding. Oh, I don't know how to speak my feelings.
Like, and that's the thing, is that so many rom-coms are done in such a way that it feels like it's just the one rom-com script that they pass around Hollywood, and they'll, control, find, and replace a name, and that's it. And it's like, there, we got a rom-com movie.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, Paddington is just one of the recent movies that are in, like, theaters and such, where the actual drama of the situation is just more small scale. Like, this isn't like a world-ending
I think that works for
sort of
kids,
story.
though, too.
Yeah, this isn't a world-ending story. Like, if Paddington doesn't get a family, like, the whole country's not gonna, like, flip upside down. It's just...
Yeah, it's just the end of his world. Like,
Yeah.
his own world, not... I'd said that to Duke, too, and it's funny, because this actually kind of goes with the whole superhero movie genre that's been really sweeping the nation. I was talking to my friend Duke about this, and it came into play where I was like, every DC movie, everything felt like it had to be cataclysmic.
Yeah.
Like, Man of Steel, big alien invasion. Batman v Superman had a colossal, giant, unstoppable killing machine monster that would have run rampant across the planet. Suicide Squad had a giant portal in the sky opened by an interdimensional witch.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman had the God of War itself make manifest. And then Justice League literally rehashed Man of Steel and just had another big alien invasion.
Right.
And I had said to Duke, I'm like, I think one of the reasons why, to me, in terms of the Marvel films, the best ones are Spider-Man Homecoming and Ant-Man. Because neither one of those was it a cataclysmic event.
Yeah, it was the characters, basically, world coming down.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is where it's like, in the case of Paddington, it comes down to, it's like, no, not all of London is going to be like lit ablaze if everything falls through. It's just that his world falls apart. And that's the thing, though, when it comes to storytelling, that's what it should be that matters.
Yeah, because we are the ones that are following along their story. We're along their journey of it, so we should care about their world of it. We don't have to care about the entire world of it. We don't need to care about, like, every single boy, girl, or anything in between that basically lives in this world. Paddington is the important one in this movie. We want to follow his story.
Yeah. How do you feel like... You've seen, like, all these kid films, and there's such a cynical level of modernization about it.
Yeah, basically just sort of a way to basically try to entice people. Just sort of like putting, like, glittery paper on top of a present that you just got from, like, a dollar store, something like that.
Yeah, like the Smurfs, with the first two live-action Smurf films, it couldn't be in Smurf Village. It couldn't be in that magical world, with Gargamel. We had to come to New York City, and we had to, like, see, like, Blue Man Group, because they're blue.
Yeah,
like you're some kind of brilliant filmmaker.
Yeah, it wasn't until we got to Smurfs the Lost Village where we actually could see what the Smurfs could actually do in a theatrical setting and actually be entertaining about it.
I think the fact that they had two movies where it's like, oh, what are you going to tell with the Smurfs? We might as well move them to contemporary, modernized, like, New York City. And you stop and go back and you, like, look at the mythos of, like, the Smurfs from, like, the books.
Yeah.
And it's like, they fight witches and warlocks and demons and other fantasy entities. And you just think about that and it's like, really? All that? And you couldn't extrapolate any of that for a narrative, for a film?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just sort of the weirdest thing with that.
I think, God, I'm always reminded of that Alvin and the Chipmunks poster from the first film.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I think Simon's got the big old sunglasses on, and he's got, and, like, Theodore's got, like, the bucket hat, and then Alvin's got the hoodie, and you're like, ain't they hip? And it makes... Yeah. It makes me just want to find, like, the person that's hired to Photoshop that. I know they're just doing a job just to get paid, but I just kind of want to, like, pop them in the throat or, like, break their hands with a hammer. Because this is uninspired. This isn't creative. Knock it off.
Well, technically it is sort of creative, but it's missing the point of what even Alvin and the Chipmunks was. Like, people like
shouldn't
it
it be
for
just music?
Yeah, it should be just for the fun music, for the band coming together and such. Not for like, oh my god, we gotta save the school in the second one, or we gotta be a family in the first one. It should be about the
third one.
brothers.
They were on like a desert island.
Yeah, exactly. It totally misses the core of what Alvin and the Chipmunks really was. Well, in Paddington, what it really is just sort of like the pleasantries conquering all, which I would say is like the overlying theme of most of the movies. Paddington, it just always will stick to his positive, like, courteous edge, and he'll always end up on top because he sticks to it. Even if he just winds up in the gutter or something.
What was it that... I can't remember the exact line, but Paddington would say something like, my Aunt Lucy always said, like, you know, you do good and good comes of it. There was always a quote he was saying. Yeah,
especially in the second one. That was just... Because that basically just sort of underlines the whole theme of it, that line right there. And it actually just sort of leads me to like talking about the antagonists of the movie. Like in the first movie, we had crazy animal stuff for just running around. And now in the second one, we sort of have 3 antagonist characters. Mr. Curry, who takes a much more antagonistic route, just basically going around the neighborhood, just going like, I hate this bear, everyone should hate this bear, and all that.
I really kind of wanted, like, I guess because in the book he was just a grump, but like, why is he such a jerkwad?
Yeah, I would have been in the neighborhood who just popped out the window just like, hey, you know, in the last movie you almost killed Paddington? Maybe you should shut up.
And now he's like, I'm glad that bear's in jail. What did this bear do to you in such a way that, like, ruined your perception of him?
Yeah, he just existed.
If anything, he's kind of like the neighborhood racist.
He kind of is.
I don't like this new guy that moved in. Racist.
And now the second biggest villain that goes along with the sort of the theme and such is Knuckles McGinty, the big rough and tough chef from prison.
I love. First off, that actor's great. Hell, he was in actually Smurfs 2. He was the dad of Neil Patrick Harris, the one that turns into the Hitler duck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was him. And like, hell, he's charming in that too, because he's this like loving, doting father that's like doing the best he can, and then Neil Patrick Harris is written to be the most disgusting stepson like a stepfather can have, where it's like, man, you're trying so hard to show this kid nothing but love and affection, and like he just keeps like taking a dump on you, and that's so unfair to you.
Yeah, I just saw the Nostalgia Critics review of that and just like, oh my god, that's not how you write a father-son relationship. That's on the rocks. You have to make the dad at least a little bit not perfect.
That cheapness is what they do in other movies. Remember The Cat in the Hat?
Yeah.
Like, here's a god-awful son and an absent-minded mother. They hate each other. Oh, well, I mean, that's such a rich narrative to pull from. Especially when the movie writes it in such a way you side with the mom.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
You have that bit where like, I wish you would just behave yourself, Conrad. I wish you weren't my mom. Sometimes I wish that too. Mom leaves, you're in the right. Your kid is written intentionally to be a detestable little crap nugget. I mean, for God's sakes, he knows you're getting ready for a party for work. What does he do? He takes your tray of cookies, pours them out on the counter, and rides the tray down the stairs. Your kid is not only a stubborn jackass, he's also an idiot.
Yep, exactly.
Your kid's the equivalency of Georgie from It. It's just Darwinism at this point.
But now we just go with the Knuckles McGinty, who is just the rough, tough guy from prison who everyone's afraid of because he doesn't doesn't want to get like anyone close to him. And it's just Paddington who just basically comes up to him, and is completely honest with him, completely polite, and he just bats down his little heart until he just melts at the end.
I think that might be one of my favorite scenes in the movie too. Is like, he's like, well, you know, my Aunt Lucy used to say, well, your Aunt Lucy sounds like a whining nag. I beg your pardon?
Yeah, Paddington just turns around and is like, I beg your pardon.
I love that too, because then like he's like, I think she's then he does the the hard stare. He's just like, is it getting hot in here? Oh man, you feeling all flushed and comfortable?
Yeah, you were telling me before the movie, like, this was a much better hard stare than the first movie. And I love both hard stares because they both come in like perfect times. Like, even the first one, I feel it's a lot more claustrophobic because of the actual setting they're in. Because Mr. Brown is just in the elevator, just has to stare right at Paddington, just like, oh. And the camera's just zooming and slowly, even though McGinty is just like right on his face from the beginning. They both work so well. As in the second one, it feels much more deserved.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that, like, the first one, he's just like, Paddington, was there really an explorer? I mean, are you sure you maybe didn't just make it up? What's happening right now? And it's like, he wasn't even trying to be rude or disrespectful. He was genuinely addressing a concern, whereas Knuckles was just being a jerk for no real reason. And so, like, that's the closest you'll see Paddington get to, like, being angry at somebody by just like, burning a hole into them with his bare eyes until it's like, okay, we're cool. I'm sorry, man, I didn't mean it.
Yeah, and that's just sort of what I love about Paddington. He's just the idol of just optimism in movies that is really lacking nowadays, especially in these kids' movies and such. Because they all
it seems like most of the times we have to make characters just jackasses.
Yeah, their mistakes have to come from their negative qualities. While in Paddington 2, it comes from his positive qualities. By being so nice, caring, and all that sort of stuff, he gets put into these situations.
Well, it's almost like it goes to me. It goes to like the perfect opposites of Mario versus Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Mario's really nice and friendly and polite and hardworking, and Sonic is the cool one because he's brash and arrogant and treats everybody around him like garbage. Don't you want to be like Sonic? Who logically shouldn't have any friends because he's a dick?
Yeah, really. It's just as simple as that. And it sort of just goes along with the theme of his villains as well. Like Nicole Kidman's like Hunter character from the first one, and now it's like Hugh Grant in this one. That's just sort of
Hugh Grant is the villain, and he plays a character called Phoenix Buchanan, who, oh my god, when I was watching this, I sat there and I just kept thinking, and I'm like, why does this feel so familiar? And then in the back of my head, it's like, this feels like a villain from Batman 66.
Yeah, you feel.
I used to be an astounding actor, and then everything went to crap.
Yeah, wasn't that like in one of Spider-Man's villains, like Mysterio or something like that? Like
Mysterio was a famed special effects artist who fell out of work, and I bet, because it's been a very long time since I've read like the first Mysterio story.
So from the Spider-Man cartoon, where like in that episode of it, like I'm talking about the guy with the fishbowl in his head. Like he wore multiple costumes to commit he wore multiple costumes to commit his crimes, and basically that's what Phoenix is doing now in this movie. And he frames Paddington Bear for stealing a pop-up book and such, and Paddington is thrown in jail. And Phoenix is just like, oh yes, I totally saw Paddington basically run out there, steal the book and all that, but I didn't see anybody else around him.
Quick little bit of context. The setup is that Paddington wants to get his Aunt Lucy a present, and she's really old, so he found a pop-up book, and it's really rare, so it's very valuable. And he wanted to save up and earn money doing odd jobs around town, which is how he connects to people, and he wanted to purchase the pop-up book to send to his Aunt Lucy. However, Phoenix Buchanan wants the pop-up book because it's in fact a treasure map that will lead to a hidden gold. And it ties into this remarkably dark plot that involves like murder and theft.
Yeah.
And I really like that. Like I remember I think it was James had said on your comments, like you're like, I just came back from Paddington 2, loved it, and he mentioned like I think he said
Nicole Kidman's character, the
taxidermist, was like, he's like, that seemed out of place. That was like a really weird, dark character for everything else that's so lighthearted. I like that because I like the contrast.
Yeah, that's sort of what I've been thinking about too. It's like, are these antagonists too dark for a Paddington Bear movie? And I just feel like I think that's sort of the point of it. That sort of contrast of it is like they're pushing their darkness into Paddington's world, and his optimism just pushes them back out again. Yeah,
it's the same reason why the Superman Lex Luthor dynamic works, because Superman is, the pinnacle of optimism and honesty and courteousness and selflessness, and Lex Luthor is this narcissistic, self-centered man-child who can't fathom the idea that somebody who is as powerful as Superman could just be a kind-hearted person that just cares about people. He can't wrap his mind around, like, you'd have to be selfish, you'd have to be cruel if you were that powerful. There's no logical reason why you would be just nice.
Yeah, and that's basically just sort of Phoenix's character as well. Like, he's sort of the narcissistic one out of the two villains in the movies. And Nicole Kidman is just sort of like, just the cruel, just sort of, I'm trying to think of the right word. Just sort of like, it's all about me, I'm just gonna do everything for me and such. Like, screw my family and all that.
Cruel, sadistic, ruthless, self-serving.
Yeah, self-serving.
Both villains share the traits. But Phoenix Buchanan is a funnier character.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he's clearly insane.
Yeah, he's clearly crazy. Nicole Kidman was just clearly murderous.
Yeah, like, she was just homicidal. Phoenix Buchanan really came down to, like, well, it's clear this guy's just crazy because, like, he's very clearly got some kind of personality disorder by the fact that he imprints himself on all of his costumes.
It's as simple as that. So whether you like either villain, it's just whether you want a funnier villain or just a more antagonistic villain. And I just sort of like both villains equally because they both work towards the themes of each of their movies.
Yeah. I think as, can we talk about the art direction where, like, pencil sketches are used for flashbacks, or that, like, the daydream sequence when
I love the daydream
Paddington's thinking
sequence.
about what to give his Aunt Lucy's, like, a pop-up book.
The daydream sequences in this movie are so beautiful. I love them in this one.
Isn't it one continuous shot?
Yeah, it basically is shot like one continuous shot, even though technically it's animated, so yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it still takes work to constantly have that camera.
Yeah, your camera moving
tracking
around. But yeah, it's a tracking shot throughout this whole animated book and such. Like, yeah, Paddington Bear and Aunt Lucy just sort of running around in just sort of a paper version of London. And it's a beautiful shot there. And especially in another, like, daydream scene, like, far later down the line, where, like, in the first movie, you have, like, Paddington Bear just thinking back of his home and such. And now, while he's standing in his prison cell, like, sort of little leaves start growing out of the cement, and before the whole cell around him becomes just a jungle. And he runs to his Aunt Lucy's arm because he's just missing her, and he feels at his lowest at that point.
You know, I think one of the best experiences I had in this movie was when Paddington is sentenced to go to jail. There was a child, like, 2 seats down from me, and she was genuinely, like, crying.
Oh.
And I was like, man, to be able to be like that, to have that spark, because now we live in the cynical world that we have, and it's like, damn.
Yeah, just that early on in the movie to be just hit like that, to cause a girl to cry like that. That definitely shows that it hits at that core love in our hearts. And that also hits in the core for me when it was like at the very end. I don't want to spoil that one because I love the ending way too much.
That was my only thing I kind of didn't like.
Oh.
No, here's the thing. It wasn't bad. I just think you could have gone a tiny bit further.
I thought,
like, I love it. I got the feels in every way, and I'm like, yeah. And then credits roll, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
well,
Can we at least follow up a little bit with that?
I know. Yeah, I was starting to have that feeling of like, oh, is there going to be some sort of epilogue? And I think like, no, I think that's a perfect spot to end on because that's what Paddington wanted at the very end. Like that moment, that was the present all along that the audience is given. Just like, oh yes, we got this moment, yay! But yeah,
I hear you, but
but that just means that the movie's got you too. I got your emotions right here, Nero, and now I'm just gonna tug it and it's like, no, drop it.
Yeah, it still beats like Alvin the Chipmunks, where it's like, we're trying to tug at your heartstrings. I just want to put you in a box and throw you in a dryer and let you spin until you stop moving.
Yeah, I'll just pull some strings out of you. That'll be your entrails.
God awful chipmunks. So, where does this stand with you in terms of the rating?
Oh, well, it's definitely rock bottom, Nero. Like, I don't know, like, how else we could rate it anything other than that.
I mean, it's got like heart, and it's got integrity to the source material, great, CGI special effects and quality and animation.
I mean, it's just garbage
fun characters.
on every possible level, like likable characters, a really engaging storyline. Like, God, it's a must-see movie, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. Best movie of 2018. Mind you, we're only 16 days into 2018 at the time of this recording, so I mean...
Yeah, it came out technically in 2017, so...
Hey, it came out over here for the two of us in 2018, so it counts.
It counts.
It's like Your Name. Technically, Your Name came out like a year earlier, but we only went off the dub, so we counted it.
Okay, yep, it counts. Like, it's definitely one of, will probably be close to, like, definitely our top 5 already of 2018. Like,
yeah.
I feel that's a guarantee for us.
Oh yeah, with movies like Peter Rabbit, Teen Titans Go,
to the movies.
To the movies. I think it's a safe bet that this will easily become one of our top movies for 2018. And the thing is, like, I think we need more feel-good movies, especially in an era where, like, there's so much negative political charge, and there's just so much misery out there. Is it wrong to have stuff that makes you feel good?
Yeah.
Makes you happy? It's like The Princess Bride. You watch The Princess Bride because it makes you feel good. It's not an epic romantic tale that spans generations. It's a fun, feel-good movie with some fantasy elements, some swashbuckle fighting, and a cute little bit of romance.
Right, exactly. Just that feel-good movie that basically lightens everybody's hearts after just going throughout our cynical lives.
Illumination could actually learn something from a movie like this instead of all those lame movies they keep making.
Well, maybe they'll learn something in the Grinch movie this year.
No, they won't. No, they won't. You saw that poster. Don't worry, he gets meaner. That's dumb.
Well,
that looks dumb.
It does look dumb. But hopefully there's going to be like a Paddington 3 in the future because, like, God, it would be just a wonderful thing for this to become the movie that seriously comes like Paddington 10.
Yeah, even if they only, like, for the sake of argument, let's say if they only did 3, I could definitely use another good trilogy to sit through. Because I really only have 2.
Yeah.
And that's Back to the Future and the Captain America trilogy, which isn't even fully a Captain America trilogy because that third Captain America film is basically Avengers 2.5.
Right, exactly.
So, I could use another good trilogy. I thought I was going to get with Pirates of the Caribbean.
No.
Ooh. Not even close.
You got a decent 2, kind of.
No, I got a good one. I got a good Pirate of the Caribbean movie. That was it.
Yeah.
But I got 2 good Paddington Bear movies.
Let's see if they go for 3.
Not only do I hope that more movies like this are made in terms of, like, the tone, the feel good, the care to the source material, not the forced modernization. And the thing is, Paddington is modern, but it doesn't feel forced in any way. I think at most I think maybe the kids might have smartphones.
Yeah, right.
Might. And that's it.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing else after that. Also, I gotta say, I kind of wish more of these movies were made cheap like this.
Yeah, because this isn't an expensive movie. Like, just looking at their Wikipedia page. Let's see. Their budget was $50 million. Like, that's cheap in comparison to a lot of movies out today.
Hell, that's actually, surprisingly, that's more expensive than the new It movie that came out last year.
Yeah.
Which, I guess it goes to show you, maybe if it was 50 mil, Pennywise wouldn't look like crap CGI in that opening act where he noms Georgie's arm.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing when the 4-foot little Peruvian brown bear that talks with the British accent looks more real than a grown actor in a clown outfit who's then made into a bad CGI model.
Yep. Yeah, you don't know. But I think that's it. Just go out to see Paddington Bear 2 wherever you want, and just tune in tomorrow to see Cartoon Corner's review of Paddington Bear. It's going to be a fun ride.
And honestly, get out to this while you can, because I don't know why, but it seems that outside the UK, the Paddington movies don't seem to do that well, which I guess makes sense because they're very rooted in like English humor. But I mean, if you like stuff like Shaun of the Dead or the Edgar Wright films with Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, and that you like that dry British humor, you'll like this. It's very funny in terms of that kind of humor.
You'll definitely like this, and for any of the sort of parents out there, like, this is a great movie to take out with your kids and such. Like, feel good, a little bit sad, definitely a lot funny. It's a great movie for kids. Unless
you're my parents, in which case, you know, they will look at you with, like, contempt and disappointment because, you know, you should be above such frivolity as having fun with a happy bear friend.
Well, hopefully most parents that are watching us right now aren't like that. Are you? We're trusting you.
Okay, guys. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell for notification. That's important. If you want, you can support us via Patreon. You can support us via TeePublic. You know, if you purchase shirts there or you send money via Patreon, all that gets funneled back into the group. You can also support us through T-Blocks. I believe T-Blocks is a shirt selling service that has a bunch of cool pop culture shirts. Yep. And we have a code that people can use, right?
Yep, ToonGrin TBX. If you put that in the checkout, you can get 10% off your purchase of any of their boxes there.
That's some good stuff, man. Those boxes are amazing.
Yeah, they really are. So just go there, ToonGrin TBX, and do it at checkout. Whoosh!
And as always, be sure to tune in
to ToonGrin. Marmalade.
Man, I want to make some homemade marmalade. That's what this movie did to me.
Yeah, that whole cooking scene actually made me sort of interested to taste what marmalade actually tastes like.
I mean, mind you, like, when he does it, it looks like he just throws oranges into a pot and pours water and sugar into it, and that's it.
You don't know. Maybe that's how you make marmalade.
That's true. I've never actually researched how to make marmalade, so I will have to do that.
Well, maybe you'll find out how I like marmalade tomorrow. Hopefully I don't hate it.
It's like orange jelly. I mean, I'm really...
Yeah.